In early spring of 1911, a family consisting of William Hill, his wife Ruth, and Ruth's 2 children from her previous marriage, Philip and Dorothy, made their way to Ardenwald, Oregon, a serene rural community located just south of Portland. Having personally constructed the cottage, William took pride in their new abode as the family settled in during the early days of May that year. However, on the morning of June 8th, Ruth embarked on a visit to the law offices of her brother and father in Portland. Those present recall her demeanor as being noticeably perturbed, although the exact cause remained undetermined. Around 8 a.m. on June 9th, the wife of a neighbor named C.W. Matthews became concerned when she noticed that William, the husband of the Hills, hadn't left their home as he typically did each morning to catch the interurban streetcar to work at the Portland Natural Gas Company. Acting on this observation, she knocked on the front door of their residence. Upon receiving no response, Miss Matthews decided to glance through the front window and was met with a horrifying sight. The bloodied body of 4-year-old Dorothy lying motionless on the floor. Immediately, the Matthews reported the crime to Clackamas County Sheriff Ernest Mass, who promptly arrived at the scene. Based on the evidence gathered, it was estimated that the murders took place around 12:45 a.m. This estimation was supported by a broken clock in the cabin that had stopped working at that time, and a neighbor's account of his dogs barking loudly around that hour. The bodies of Ruth and William were discovered entangled in bed, with Ruth found beneath her husband's body. The investigation revealed that William had been brutally attacked with an axe, resulting in his death. Subsequently, Ruth endured 2 blows to her head after her husband's murder. Lastly, 8-year-old Philip suffered the same fate, with Dorothy being the last victim to perish. The murder weapon, a blood-stained axe, was left behind in the Hills residence propped against the foot of Dorothy's bed. Investigators discovered that the axe did not belong to the Hills and had been stolen from Joseph Delk's front porch, located just north of the Hills residence. The perpetrator had covered most of the house's windows with cloth and garments, seemingly to conceal the crime. Although some jewelry was missing, other valuable items and money were left untouched, leading Sheriff Mass to rule out robbery as a motive for the gruesome act. Due to the violent and sexual nature of the murders, Mass suspected that the motive may have been related to sex and possibly perpetrated by a pedophile. To aid in the investigation, Mass brought a bloodhound from Seattle to search the Hill property and the surrounding area, but unfortunately, these efforts did not yield any significant leads. A coroner who examined the bodies described the horrific injuries sustained by the victims. William's head was brutally disfigured, with the right side completely chopped to pieces, especially above his eye, causing severe facial deformity. Ruth suffered a significant skull fracture extending from above her right eye across her entire face, along with another fracture that broke her teeth and lower jaw. Dorothy had multiple skull fractures on both the front and back of her head inflicted by the axe blade, while Philip's head wounds appeared to have been inflicted with the axe handle. Autopsy findings suggested that Ruth had likely been assaulted post-mortem, while Dorothy had endured sexual assault prior to her murder. Additionally, bloody fingerprints were discovered smeared on Dorothy's body, as well as on Philip's arm. On December 20th, 1911, Nathan Harvey, a 55-year-old nursery owner residing just 100 yards away from the Hills residence, was accused of the murder of all 4 victims. Harvey, originally from Iowa and a local landowner, had been involved with a land dispute with William Hill prior to the tragic events. Further investigation revealed that Harvey had loose connections to other disturbing crimes. In 1894, an 18-year-old woman named Mamie Welch was found murdered in a strawberry patch on Harvey's property, next to a nearby road. Additionally, a series of mysterious deaths occurred within the Harvey family, including one brother who shot their mother before taking his own life in 1896, and another brother who drowned in a mill pond in Milwaukee in 1899. During the investigation, Sheriff Mass interviewed Harvey's neighbors in Ardenwald and received reports from several women who claimed that Harvey had made inappropriate advances towards them and that he had insulted them. Mass went on to assert that he had absolute proof that Harvey had taken the last interurban railway train from Cazadero to Ardenwald, arriving at 12:45 a.m. on the night of June 9th. 2 witnesses testified seeing Harvey disembark from the train at Ardenwald Station during that time. Despite the charges, Harvey garnered a significant number of supporters who vehemently declared his innocence and organized protests against his arrest. Mass gatherings took place in Milwaukee and Selwood on December 23rd and 26th, respectively, where over 500 signatures were collected, demanding the charges against Harvey be dropped. However, some locals expressed reservation about the protests, with an anonymous landowner telling the Oregonian that Harvey was feared and that there were individuals who possessed potentially incriminating evidence but were reluctant to come forward due to concerns about possible retribution from Harvey. Although Sheriff Bass strongly believed that Harvey was responsible for the murders, the charges against him were ultimately dismissed on December 27, 1911, pending further investigation. Harvey was released during a preliminary hearing, and in February of 1912, a Clackamas County judge officially closed the investigation into Harvey.